The bedroom was a tomb of silence, save for the faint hum of the air conditioner and the distant drip of a faucet. I stood in the doorway, my shadow stretching across the hardwood floor, watching my wife Lila sleep. Her chest rose and fell under the thin cotton sheet. Her dark hair splayed across the pillow like spilled ink. My hands trembled, not from the chill of the midnight air, but from the weight of the phone in my pocket. Its screen still burned in my mind, a single text, glowing like a flare in the dark. Meet me tomorrow, same place. Don't tell him. The words weren't meant for me, but I'd seen them when her phone buzzed on the counter an hour ago. Now they clawed at my chest, each syllable a shard of glass. For weeks, Lila had been a ghost in our marriage. Her laughter, once a melody that filled our small apartment, had faded. When I reached for her in the dark, her body stiffened, a silent wall between us. Last night, I'd tried again, my fingers brushing her arm, whispering her name. She turned away, muttering about exhaustion, her voice sharp like a blade slicing through my hope. I'd lain awake, staring at the ceiling, convincing myself it was stress. Her late nights at the office, the endless meetings she never explained. But that text, those 5 words, shattered my excuses. Who was she meeting? Why the secrecy? My mind churned, replaying every glance, every dodged question, every cold moment. I sat on the edge of the couch, the leather creaking under my weight, and stared at the coffee table. A half-empty wine glass sat there, lipstick smudged on the rim, her shade crimson bold. The same shade she'd worn when we first met, when she'd laughed at my terrible jokes and let me steal a kiss under a street lamp. Now, that memory felt like a betrayal of its own, mocking the trust I'd built over 7 years. I wanted to storm back into the bedroom, shake her awake, demand answers. But fear stopped me. Fear of what she'd say, of what I'd lose if the truth spilled out. Morning came too soon, gray light filtering through the blinds. Lila shuffled into the kitchen, her silk robe slipping off one shoulder. She didn't look at me as she poured coffee, the gurgle of the machine filling the silence. "Morning," she said, her voice flat, like she was reading a script. I nodded, my throat tight, the phone burning a hole in my pocket. I wanted to ask about the text, but the words stuck, heavy as lead. Instead, I watched her move, her fingers tapping the counter, her eyes darting to her phone every few seconds. Each gesture felt like a clue, a breadcrumb leading to a truth I wasn't ready to face. "I need to head out early," she said, grabbing her keys. "Big day at work." Her smile was thin, practiced, and it didn't reach her eyes. I nodded again, my jaw clenched. As she slipped on her coat, she paused, turning back. "Oh, and could you transfer me a couple $100? I'm short for some bills." Her tone was casual, but it hit like a slap. Last night, she'd pushed me away, her body a fortress I couldn't breach. Now she wanted my money, as if I were just a wallet, not a husband. I stood, my hands balling into fists. "What for?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Her eyes flickered, surprise, maybe guilt. "Just stuff," she said, shrugging. "You know how it is." But I didn't know. Not anymore. The air between us crackled with unspoken questions. I transferred the money, my fingers shaking as I tapped my phone, but my mind screamed. "Who are you meeting? What are you hiding?" She left without another word, the door clicking shut like a gavel. I sank onto the couch, my pulse hammering in my ears. The text haunted me, a ghost I couldn't banish. I grabbed my keys and followed her. It was reckless, maybe insane, but I needed answers. The city streets were alive with morning chaos. Honking cabs, the bitter tang of exhaust, the chatter of pedestrians. I kept my distance, my hoodie pulled low, watching Lila's red coat weave through the crowd. She didn't go to her office. Instead, she turned into a cafe, its windows fogged with steam. My stomach twisted as I lingered across the street, hidden by a newsstand. Through the glass, I saw her slide into a booth, her face lighting up in a way I hadn't seen in months. A man joined her, tall, broad-shouldered, his smile too familiar, too intimate. My breath caught, my chest tightening like a vice. I didn't know him, but the way she leaned toward him, her hand grazing his arm, told me everything. The world tilted, sounds fading to a dull roar. I wanted to barge in, to scream, to shatter their cozy little scene. But I stood frozen, my feet rooted to the pavement, my heart splintering. Back home. I paced the apartment, my thoughts a tangle of rage and despair. The text, her distance, her lies. It all fit together now, a puzzle I'd been too blind to solve. I rifled through her desk, desperate for more evidence, hating myself for it. In a drawer, beneath a stack of papers, I found a hotel receipt. 2 nights, a city an hour away, dated last month. My name wasn't on it. The room number stared back at me, a silent accusation. I sank to the floor, the paper crumpling in my fist, tears burning my eyes. How long had this been going on? How had I missed it? When Lila came home that evening, I was waiting. The apartment was dim, the only light from a flickering bulb in the kitchen. She froze in the doorway, her purse slipping from her shoulder. "You're home early," she said, her voice tight. I held up the receipt, my hand steady despite the storm inside me. "What's this?" I asked, my tone low, dangerous. Her face paled, her lips parting as if to speak, but no words came. The silence was deafening, heavier than any lie she could have told. "I saw you," I said, my voice breaking. "At the cafe. With him." Her eyes widened, then dropped to the floor. Guilt, raw and undeniable, carved itself into her features. "It's not what you think," she whispered, but the words were hollow, a reflex. I laughed, a bitter, jagged sound. "Don't," I said. "Don't lie to me anymore." The air vibrated with tension, the weight of 7 years crumbling between us. She sank onto the couch, her hands twisting in her lap. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, her voice barely audible. "It was a mistake. A moment." But her words were a blade, slicing deeper with every syllable. A moment? Months of lies, of stolen glances, of secret meetings, reduced to a moment? I wanted to hate her, to scream. But all I felt was a hollow ache, a grief for the life I thought we had. "Who is he?" I asked, my voice raw. She hesitated, her eyes glistening with tears. "His name's David," she said finally. "From work. It started. God, I don't even know how. I was lonely, okay? You were always working, always distracted." Her words stung, a half-truth twisted to justify her betrayal. I'd been working to build a future for us, for the family we'd planned. But she'd found someone else to fill the spaces I'd left empty. I stood, my legs unsteady, and walked to the window. The city sprawled below, a maze of lights and shadows, indifferent to my pain. "I gave you everything," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "And you threw it away." She sobbed behind me, but I couldn't look at her. Not yet. Not when every memory of us felt like a lie. The next morning, she was gone. A note lay on the counter, her handwriting shaky. "I'm sorry. I need time." No explanation, no promises. Just those 4 words, as empty as our bed. I stared at the note, my anger giving way to a bone-deep exhaustion. I could chase her, demand answers, beg her to stay. But what was left to salvage? The trust we'd built was ash, scattered by her secrets. I sat on the couch, the same spot where I'd watched her lie to me, and opened my banking app. The $200 I'd transferred was gone, spent on God knows what. Maybe a coffee with him. Maybe a hotel room. The thought made my stomach lurch. I canceled her access to my account, my finger hovering over the button before pressing it. It wasn't revenge, it was survival. I couldn't keep giving to someone who'd taken everything. As the sun rose, painting the apartment in gold, I made a choice. I'd rebuild, piece by piece, without her. The pain would linger, a scar I'd carry forever, but I wouldn't let it define me. I grabbed her note, tore it in half, and let the pieces fall. The sound of paper hitting the floor was soft, final, like the closing of a door.